Hey everybody, it's Dr. May. How's it going? I hope you guys are good. I wanted to share a piece of lesson 17 that's a little hidden in the chapter. It's kind of toward the back by the homework section, but it definitely has some interesting points that I think is worth discussing. So this is about myths about interpersonal relationships that we might hold. And sometimes holding on to these myths can kind of get in our way. So it's good to identify what they are so we can work with them, decide if we want to keep them or not. Okay, so here we go. So this is lesson 17B, I'll call it, because it's the second part of lesson 17. So this is overcontrolled myths about interpersonal relationships. So what does that mean? It means that if you have that overcontrolled style, these are myths that you might hold about relationships. Okay, there's another version of this in regular DBT in their interpersonal effectiveness section. And it's also myths about interpersonal relationships, but they tend to be myths that people who are more on the emotional side tend to hold. So if you're a little bit more on the under emotional side, on the anxious avoidant attachment style side, the over controlled side, these might be ones that you relate to more than the ones outlined in original DBT. All right, so check this out and see what might feel right to you and what doesn't. Okay, here we go. All right, so I kind of broke them into some categories just to make it a little easier for us to talk to. So they're not in the original order that they're in the manual. So I hope Dr. Lynch doesn't mind, but anyway, so here we go. So this first category, to sum it up, it's basically the feeling that you can't trust people. So all these myths maybe come from a place where you were hurt in relationships in the past, right? So people let you down, or they wanted you to be who they wanted you to be. They didn't let you be yourself. They were maybe intrusive, they were hurtful, they were abusive, or whatever. So based on your experience, you may have drawn these conclusions, okay? So it might make sense that you drew these conclusions, but perhaps you over-apply the conclusions to too many people, right? So therefore, sometimes it doesn't always make sense and maybe could get in your way. So let's review some of these, okay? All right, if you give someone an inch, they will take a mile, right? So something you might believe if you've been taken advantage of, perhaps, right? People only truly care about themselves, okay? Definitely true for some people, maybe not true for all people. People are always secretly gossiping about others behind their backs. If I show vulnerability, others will take advantage of me, right? In the long run, people will always let you down, right? So see how these go? It's just like that feeling that, you know, people are ultimately going to disappoint you, that they're going to hurt you in some way, that if you're being your true self, it's just not going to work out, right? So what painful conclusions. All right, and then the last one, talking about inner feelings is a waste of time. If you reveal your true feelings to another person, they'll use it against you, right? So kind of tied into the one about vulnerability, right? If I reveal my true self, it's not going to be handled very well by others, right? I'm not going to be accepted or validated. So what's the point? I might as well stay closed rather than open, right? So see how this fits into that closed, over-controlled sensation, you know? Okay, so that's this grouping. Let's go to the next one. So this is also kind of like a cynical interpretation we might have of others, right? Possibly based on some negative past experiences, right? So basically, I'll call this category like everyone's phony and two-faced. So if you look at this picture, you know, the guy in the right is kind of crossing his fingers behind his back and has a devil face on one side and a happy face on the other, right? So he's really thinking one thing, but putting on a face for the other person, probably not being authentic, okay? And you might have had some pretty bad experiences with people like that, okay? Perhaps even people in your own family, right? So based on your experience, you might have drawn these conclusions and held to some of these myths, all right? So compliments are used to manipulate others, right? Perhaps it's hard for you to accept a compliment because that's been your experience, that people weren't genuine in complimenting you or being nice. They had an agenda, right? People are nice to others only when they want something, right? How do you know if you could trust somebody's kindness? Always smile even when you are miserable, okay? Might have been something you were taught growing up, right? Put on a happy face. Let's keep smiling, right? And love is fake and romance is for fools. Mm, right? How sad, right? If you don't really believe that true love is possible, you may not really believe it if someone's trying to show you love. Okay? So we have to be questioning these myths. Are they always true? All right. And so in this category, possibly because you were hurt, you might have felt that dependence is a bad thing, right? Maybe your dependency needs were kind of ridiculed or made fun of, or you were made to feel foolish for having them when you were growing up. Maybe your parents forced you to be independent, so you're told, you know, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, do it yourself. You don't need any help from anybody, right? So you might have always had that deep feeling that being dependent on someone is bad. I'll be, individualistic, right? All right, so here are some beliefs you might hold. Dependence means you're weak. Being dependent on another person is foolish. It is a sign of weakness to ask for help. And I must be inadequate if I can't get what I want. Mm. But the truth is that tribe matters, as they say in Radically Open DBT, right? We're all meant to be living in a tribe, working together, coexisting, helping each other, right? So if we believe these things, it's going to be hard for us to find a tribe or rely on our tribe, so to speak. Okay, so here's another one, and possibly, some conclusions you drew based on some painful experiences where people didn't really understand you, and maybe you were even afraid of revealing yourself, so people had an extra hard time understanding you, right? So just that deep, painful feeling that you're just on an island, that you're, on that people don't get you, that you're kind of detached from others. Okay, so really hard. So you might end up drawing the conclusion that feeling detached and alone is normal because that was your normal or is your normal. Okay. You might truly believe that no one could ever understand another person, perhaps because you never really felt understood, right? Or no one is capable of understanding me. Maybe other people could be understood, but maybe just not me for some reason, right? You might feel like I'm just not like other people. You might feel like a little bit of a sore thumb or an oddball or just not able to click with others, right? I feel that people do not understand me because I'm better than they are. Sometimes we draw that conclusion, right? Sometimes we're, really good at something or, really intelligent, and we feel like maybe they don't understand me because I'm on a different level, right? Some of the folks at my hospital are quote unquote higher functioning and feel that the other patients don't understand them because they're at a different level, and sometimes that is true. And sometimes we overassume. And finally, people don't appreciate my self-sacrifices, right? Sometimes you might try really hard to work on a project or to help other people or to do something, and then other people don't fully understand or appreciate the effort you put in, right? And that might lead you to feel misunderstood, okay? All right, I'll jokingly call this one the old ball and chain, right? So an expression kind of referring to the fact that, if I get married, I'm kind of trapped with this person and it's not particularly enjoyable. So if you look at the South Park cartoon I found, it says, you want a relationship, you're going to have a bad time. So if you've had difficult experiences in relationships, you might have drawn conclusions that relationships are just a lot of work. They're not that fun. They're a lot of drama. They're a lot of trouble. And why bother, right? I might as well just do things myself. And it might be based on your experience. Maybe it's been hard to find really good relationships so far. Okay. So here are some conclusions you might buy into, or myths you might think about. Relationships are not meant to be fun. Having a friend means being obligated. Oh, now I have to go to this party. I got to go to this event. I got to buy them a present for Christmas time, for their birthday. I got to help them move. What a pain in the neck. I'd rather just be by myself, right? Keeping experiences to oneself will improve relationships. Again, that feeling that if I say too much about myself, or if I give my opinions, it's just going to stir up trouble. People don't react well, going to create drama. Might as well just keep my damn mouth shut, right? And when conflict occurs, it's best to just walk away. You know, it's so painful and messy to work these damn things through. I'm just going to leave the room. I'm not going to engage with this, right? So relationships are a lot of trouble, right? Is it worth it? Pros and cons. We got to think about it, right? All right. So if you're over-controlled, you might have an issue with perfectionism, right? And perfectionism could spread through all different areas of your life, including relationships, okay? So here's some perfectionistic related myths that you might have, okay? So one, there's a right and a wrong way, quote unquote, to interact with others, right? And you might have certain kind of like rules in your mind of what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what's right, what's wrong, right? And you might apply them to yourself as well as other people. Being correct is more important than being liked. Especially, let's say you're in a school environment or a work environment, or even socially. Sometimes it's like you could win the factual contest, but the way you go about it messes up the relationship. You could prove your point and be right, but be wrong relationally. Okay. I have to sacrifice my time and energy to get it right because others are incompetent. All right. So that kind of mindset might make it difficult to work together with other people on a project, right? If you feel like your way is the better way and you might as well just do it on, strike out on your own and do it the way you think is best, you might end up alienating other people, right? It might be hard for you to work with others. And relatedly, if I don't do it myself, then it's never going to get done or done properly, right? The feeling like it's hard to trust other people to do the right thing. It's hard to trust other people to have the right quality of work. And sometimes you might end up taking over and doing too much. And then guess what? Feel like people aren't, appreciating your self-sacrifices and how much you put into it. Ugh, right? So it kind of creates a vicious cycle in a way. And here's another rule we might have. Like when phone calls or emails or text, I'll add, are not returned promptly, it is a sign of disrespect or lack of caring. And we could easily take stuff like that personally, right? Like, what's the delay about? Maybe they don't like me, or maybe they're just disrespectful, right? We could draw these kind of very personalized conclusions, but sometimes it's like something completely, personal to them that has nothing to do with us. Okay, so we have to like leave our options open as to why that's happening. Okay, so next one I'll call eye for an eye. Okay, so this is kind of like that fairness and justice mindset. So if someone wrongs me, it's important to always pay them back, no matter how long it takes. Holding grudges, resentment, revenge, all that kind of stuff, right? It's going to make it painful to keep a relationship, and also painful just for yourself. Creates a lot of suffering to hold on to these things. Okay, but you might still believe that holding on to a grudge is necessary because people cannot be trusted, right? So if I'm on the alert and vigilant all the time for being hurt, then I'll be better off, because if I relax and put my guard down, people are going to take advantage of me. Kind of like we were saying earlier on, like people cannot be trusted is one of the main schemas we might have for the myths, right? People must be punished for mistakes, right? Sometimes we act like we're the judge and the jury. We have an idea of what should happen to people for their behavior, and we might impose our rules on other people, okay? Other people don't deserve my help, okay? It's another fairness and justice thing. Who's deserving and why, or who's not deserving and why? We're making up our rules about these things sometimes. And also, when I'm wronged by someone, it's a sign of weakness to forgive and forget, right? I'm afraid of vulnerability. I'm afraid of weakness. I'm just going to stay on my guard and hold that grudge, right? I'm not going to let it go because the person could just take advantage of me. That could be a myth, okay? When in fact, forgiveness could actually set us free and make it easier for us to move on in our life instead of keeping us stuck and keeping us resentful and painful, all that stuff. Okay, so now that we went over some of the common myths held by people who tend to be over-controlled, okay, let's do a little self-inquiry, okay? So what I want you to do is to think about maybe a myth or two or 5 or 10 that we just went over, that really kind of hits home for you, all right? So keep that in the back of your mind, and maybe ask yourself some of these self-inquiry type questions. I really trip over my words sometimes, don't I? But anyway, so ask yourself, okay, so what might this myth be telling me about myself and my life? Okay, maybe like, where do I think this myth came from? What experience did I have that led me to develop and believe in this myth? Okay. And how open am I, radical openness, to thinking differently about this myth or changing this myth? Okay. How does holding on to this myth help me live more fully? Right? Is it making my life better to keep believing it? Right? Is it benefiting me to keep believing it? And in what way? Okay. And how might changing this myth help me to live more fully? Is it going to give me more options, help me be more open, help me let different kinds of people in my life that maybe I would have excluded, help me take a chance that'll lead to something good? Who knows, right? What might my resistance to changing this myth be telling me? Okay. And then related to the next question, what do I fear might happen if I even momentarily let go of this myth, right? Chances are there's some fear about vulnerability, being taken advantage of, being hurt, being intruded upon, right? Something to that effect. So think about it. What does that mean to me? What am I most afraid of by letting go of this myth about relationships? And of course, typical self-enquiry question, what is it that I need to learn? Okay, where's the edge that this is taking me to that's going to help me move to a different level in my relationships, right? So my beliefs about relationships can be holding me back. My myths about relationships can be holding me back. So which ones are worth surrendering or trying to surrender? Okay, so some deep thoughts today. All right, that's it. It's not a real long video, but it's definitely something to think about, right? Okay, so we got to look at our deep beliefs and not take them as facts, just beliefs, right? Pull them apart a little bit, question them. All right, so that's all for today. And I'll see you soon for lesson 18, okay? If you're in regular DBT and you're familiar with Dear Man, wait till you see this one, okay? All right, so stay tuned for the next time. See you soon. Bye for now.